Where is this thing? It's got to be here somewhere. Aha! Ah, here it is. That's the stuff. That's what I was looking for. Wouldn't that be nice? Shielding gases for welding can get pretty complex from all the different ways that they're extracted or different mixtures at different percentages to give a certain weld a different bead profile, help the weldability, even to a point where you're making the weld too brittle and full of holes and absolutely worthless. Why do we even use a shielding gas in the first place? The molten weld pool that we make when we're welding needs to be shielded one way or the other. With stick welding or flux core welding, that flux is being deposited, and as it burns, it puts off a little bit of gas shielding around the puddle to help protect it, as well as form a protective slag behind it. But for other welding processes, we're going to need an external shielding gas along with it. And the main job of that external shielding gas is to come in, displace all the atmospheric gases around it to help shield it from all the stuff in the air around us, like the moisture, the hydrogen, the nitrogen, all those things that could make a weld really brittle or full of holes. We're using an external shielding gas to protect it. Depending on which gas or mixture you use, you can really manipulate a lot in that weld puddle, overall making a weld stronger and more efficient. A shielding gas can help. Now, you can find all these gases that you need for welding at your local weld supply, like air gas, but if you want to figure out where they get it, it's not as easy as just going to the store. First off, let's separate our gases into two main groups. You have your inert gases, and then you have your active gases. I first learned this when I was studying gas metal arc welding, and they would always reference to either MIG welding or mag welding. While those two things are both gas metal arc welding, they're only different by the gas that's being used. Your MIG welding is your metal inert gas, and your mag welding is your metal active gas. Either way you look at it, the gases that we're trying to use for welding can be extracted a number of ways. When they're pulling it out from the air that we breathe, they use a process called fractional distillation, which is far above my head and above my pay grade. But what basically means is all these gases that we pull out have a different boiling point. So when they go about kind of distilling it, these gases start to separate at their boiling points. And that's how we're able to take all this air that's around us that's got a hodgepodge, and we can pull it into these separate groups. One of these gases that we pull out of the air that we breathe is going to be argon, which is an exceptional shielding gas for a ton of different welding. Another inert gas that we can talk about is helium. Helium is also in the air that we breathe, but it's a little bit harder to get, and it's much more expensive to process. To put it in an example, there's about 0.9% of the air that we breathe that is argon. It's much easier to grab, whereas helium is 0.00052, I believe. It's way lower, and it's really hard to just pull it out of the air. So they might go about finding this helium another way, like at the bottom of these natural gas deposits and cryogenically separating it from the natural gas to get the helium off to the side. Helium is often added to argon, and even up to a 50-50 split in order to get a lot more heat into the puddle. Now, when it comes to your active gases, there are kind of a lot of active gases in the world that we live in, but one in particular that we use a ton of in welding is your CO2. We often extract CO2 from natural weld deposits or separating it from natural gas like we did with helium, or even catching it during like the fermenting process at some of these ammonia plants. There's a number of ways we can go about catching CO2 and utilizing it for welding. The point being, there are a number of ways where we can go about finding all these gases, but it's really not all that important to the end user. What we really need to know is the types of gases that we use to weld. Just how many different types of shielding gas are there? Technically speaking, there are like an endless variety of different shielding gases. Remember, we can take 2 or 3 or more and just mix them all up to add all those different pros or different benefits to what we're really looking for a specific application. It gets into the weeds a bit, but what I can do is at least tell you what each one of these gases does individually. One of the most common shielding gases that I personally use often is your argon. 100% argon I've used for a whole bunch of stuff, and you can weld a whole bunch with it. It's a great shielding gas for arc stability, keeps the weld cool, free of defects, the whole 9 yards. And fun fact about argon, it's actually heavier or denser than the air that we breathe. So it settles in low points of whatever container that it's in. So it's really good for pushing atmospheric air out of piping or whatever it may be in order to purge it so that you can put a good weld in, and the inside of it is also not contaminated with any atmospheric garbage or gobbledygook like porosity. Typically, you only have to worry about this when you're welding metals that have a little bit of chrome in them or a lot of chrome in them. And it's also just a great base for these other gases to come in on top of and mix up. Nitrogen is also another inert gas that, in my experience, I've really only used it for purging the inside of some structures or some piping. Sometimes it's even blended into argon, kind of like helium, just to spice things up a bit. However, as far as 100% nitrogen, it's not necessarily the best thing, especially for steels. I have been seeing a lot more nitrogen in the 100% form for this new laser welding fad that's happened a lot more. So you'll see it there. Helium is something we've already talked about a little bit. And again, remember, if we're adding helium to a puddle, we're really trying to spice things up and add a lot of heat input to it. Now, I haven't necessarily seen it a whole lot in my career. I've mostly just used 100% argon to TIG weld aluminum or copper. But when it comes to thicker copper and thicker aluminum sections, adding some helium is going to really help with that thermal conductivity that those metals have. Oxygen is not a gas that we talk a whole lot about, but it does mix into a lot of these different mixtures, and it has a whole lot of benefits to it. Now, be forewarned, we're only going to mix oxygen in very small amounts in order to have some good things to come with it. And when we do, what's going to happen is decrease the surface tension of a weld puddle. It's going to make things a little bit more fluid and allowing for a lot more faster travel speeds, which all in all sounds really nice, but add a little bit too much oxygen, you can really make a weld really brittle and lose all of its strength. CO2 is another active gas that we mentioned that we use a lot of, and this one is where you'll see a huge range of different percentages in your gas mix. You can use 100% CO2 as a welding gas, or you can use it as more of a common shielding gas that you might see around town, which is your 75-25. In my opinion, CO2's best quality as a shielding gas is that it's going to improve the width of fusion in our weld bead, and it's even usually cheaper than some of these gas blends. However, 100% CO2 usually has a rougher bead appearance. You're going to see a lot more weld spatter with your welding process, which overall is going to make it a bit less efficient, especially if you're going to have to spend the time in cleaning up a weld afterwards and getting rid of all the BBs. Now, generally speaking, your most common base metals that you're going to see in industry, like your low carbon steels or your common stainless steels, you're going to have your basic welding gases that go along with them. But that's not to say that if you have a really specific need that you can't specifically mix to what your specific need is. Now, as far as mixing these gases and how that all works, that's still a little bit over my head. Luckily, I'm in the right place for it here at Airgas. I was able to get the opportunity to go out to their giant mixer where they basically fill all these cylinders. They've got some really big tanks all around this place with all those different gases that we've already talked about. What they're doing to just fill all these cylinders is roll them in, and then they actually empty them. No matter what level is in there, they're going to pull out all the gas that's in there, good or bad. And then once those bottles are 100% vacuumed out, then you're gonna have a technician go about mixing the gases together, turning a series of manifolds and vents and valves, changing things over from CO2 to argon, depending on what the gas blend is. They even have mixers for in the field where if you have two cylinders, you wanna mix those two gases, then you can. They just hook these two bottles up, set your percentages and what you want, and get it cranked up, and then now you're able to mix whatever crazy gas mixture you want coming out the other end. It's fairly fascinating stuff. When it comes down to what processes use the shielding gas the most, or can you use more than one shielding gas for one type of process, the answer is yes and yes. Gas metal arc welding and your MIG and MAG, that's probably going to be your most versatile when it comes to your gases and your blends, because you can use 100% argon for your gas metal arc welding process when welding aluminum, or you can use 100% CO2 when you're welding some mild steel. The biggest thing with gas metal arc welding is the mode of transfer that it's in. That's really going to dictate those percentages, whether you're in short circuit transfer or you're in spray transfer or even pulse. Even sprinkling a little bit of helium into your argon CO2 mix is a great tri-mix gas for MIG welding stainless steels. Now, when it comes to flux core arc welding, especially dual shield, which requires an external shielding gas along with the flux that's on the inside of the wire, this process is a really common process to use one of those argon CO2 mixes. Somewhere around that 75-25 is usually pretty good for it. Same thing goes for metal core arc welding. They have its own special blend of argon and CO2 that makes it weld just right. Now, when it comes to the gas tungsten arc welding process or TIG welding, which is probably one of my personal favorite processes, I've really only used 100% argon. Now, while I have seen some helium being mixed in to TIG weld some of those thicker aluminum pieces of material, I've used 100% argon when TIG welding carbon steels, stainless steels, 9 chrome, duplex, Inconel, titanium, aluminum, brass, copper. Like, you can TIG weld so much with just 100% argon. I think that's probably why I like TIG welding so much. Outside of the aesthetically pleasing welds that it makes, you can pretty much weld any metal with just the right gas and right filler metal. Remember, the main point of this shielding gas is to protect the puddle. And at the end of the day, too much gas might be a problem, just as much as too little of a shielding gas can be a problem. And if we want to have a properly covered weld, we need to properly set our flow rates. There's a ton of information, especially online, for the gas mixtures that you would want to use for whatever process you have, along with the flow rates that they're going to recommend you use. Start there. Start at that as that baseline, and then adjust for your conditions. You might have a breeze running through the bay door and it's coming across your weld and getting you the occasional porosity, or your weld partner across the way has a fan blowing and it's oscillating. It eventually gets to yours and it blows a little bit of your shielding gas away. Turning that flow rate up to a really high point is not going to be the solution, though. Too fast a flow rate coming out of your nozzle is going to cause a lot of turbulence in the puddle. Turbulence in the puddle typically causes a lot more spatter. So you're going to have what seems to be a lot more of a violent puddle because that gas is blowing on it so aggressively. Not only that, but when you have so much gas coming out of here, there's pressure being built behind it. We call this the Venturi effect, where other atmospheric gases get pulled in from the back because of the high flow rate. And now you've got a weld with porosity, but you got gas coming out the wazoo. This usually makes the weld appearance also really rough. And not to mention, you're just wasting more gas than you actually need. So that's costing you money. Now, I'm not going to lie. I've been guilty of turning up my TIG rig to tornado levels and still welding with it. Did I need to have that much shielding gas? Maybe not. Did the weld look extra shiny when I was done? Oh, yeah.